Hey everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring an excerpt from the Zhuangzi, specifically chapter 17,
Okay.
which is known as The Flow of Autumn Waters. And we're going to...
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating chapter.
Yeah.
And it's all about kind of flipping the script on how we usually think about the world.
Yeah, and it's a perspective, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Really challenges you to think differently about
Mm-hmm.
what's big, what's small, what's valuable,
Mm-hmm.
what's not.
Yeah, and how those judgments that we make are often based on,
Yeah.
our own limited perspective.
Yeah, you might even say like a skewed perspective,
Yeah.
once you kind of get through it.
Yeah, so the story starts with this really vivid scene.
Okay.
You've got this massive river,
Mm-hmm.
swollen with all those autumn rains.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful that you can't even make out the animals on the opposite bank.
Wow.
And our main character, the river god, is
Right.
presiding over all of this, feeling pretty proud of himself,
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
look at me.
He's like the king.
Yeah, I'm the ultimate source of beauty and might.
That's right. He's top dog.
But, a little hint here.
Yeah.
Pride often comes before a fall, or in this case, a humbling encounter.
That's right.
Because you see, the river god, full of himself, he decides to journey downriver,
Okay.
and he flows eastward, and eventually he reaches this boundless expanse of the North Sea.
The North Sea.
The North Sea.
That's a game changer.
I can already sense a reality check coming on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What happens when this river god, who thinks he's all that, meets the vastness of the North Sea?
Well, the immensity of the sea. It just blows him away.
Does he suddenly feel like a tiny trickle?
Yeah. I mean, imagine like going from your little pond
Mm-hmm.
to the ocean.
Yeah.
It's a total shift in perspective.
It's called a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But instead of, like, sulking or denying it,
Right.
the river guy's actually intrigued.
Mhm.
What does he do?
He basically realizes that the sea god,
Okay.
who kind of rules over all this,
Right.
must have some serious wisdom.
Okay.
So he approaches him with this mix of awe and like a burning desire to learn.
So it's like that classic Daoist thing of,
Yeah.
like, embracing humility and always seeking to understand more.
That's right. There's always more to learn.
Right.
Always a bigger fish.
Always a bigger fish.
Uh-huh.
Literally in this case.
Yeah, literally a bigger sea in this case.
So does the sea god, like, lecture him?
No, not really. That's not really the Daoist way, is it?
Right.
It's more like he uses these clever analogies
Okay.
to kind of guide him to understanding.
I like that.
Like he's got this teacherly vibe, but not in like a stucky way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm liking the sea god already.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Give us an example.
Okay, so he compares the river god
Mm-hmm.
to a frog stuck at the bottom of a well.
Uh-huh. Okay, I can picture that.
Can you see it?
Yeah, the frog thinks that its little well is the whole world.
Right. Until it hops out
Right.
and sees the vastness of the sea.
Mind blown.
Mind blown.
Yeah. So the sea god's saying, hey, river god, you're kind of like that frog.
Right. And not just the river god,
Oh.
like us too, We get so caught up in our own limited experiences
Right.
that we forget there's a whole universe out there.
So we're all susceptible to this frog in the well syndrome.
That's right.
Okay, that's a little sobering.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But also kind of exciting, right?
Oh, how so?
Because it means there's always more to discover, always more to learn.
Okay, I like that spin on it.
Yeah, it's about expanding our horizons.
So how does this all connect to, like, the idea of value or importance?
Well, think about that frog again.
Okay.
He thinks his little muddy well is the most important thing in existence,
Mm-hmm.
simply because it's all he knows.
Right.
So the sea god's trying to get the river god
Mm-hmm.
and us to see that our judgments about what matters most,
Mm-hmm.
well, they might need some adjusting.
Okay.
If we step back and see the bigger picture,
It's like that saying, everything's relative, right?
exactly, it's
Yeah.
all about context.
So how do we break free from those limited perspectives?
Well, that's where the sea god introduces this concept of the Tao.
Okay, the Tao. So that's often translated as the way, right?
Mm,
But it's not like a physical path or like a set of rules.
right. It's more like the underlying principle
Mhm.
that governs everything in the universe.
Okay, so that sounds kind of abstract.
It is, yeah, it's a big concept.
Are there any examples in the text that make it a little more concrete?
There are, yeah.
Yeah.
There's this great line where the sea god says,
Oh, yeah.
true refinement doesn't have a fixed form.
Mm.
True greatness can't be measured.
Oh.
Right. So it's saying that we shouldn't get hung up
Mm.
on fixed ideas or categories.
Like everything's interconnected and always changing.
Exactly. It's all in flux, always evolving.
So it's not about clinging to these rigid definitions or judgments,
Right.
but rather understanding that everything's in motion, always in process.
It's like trying to hold on to water. It just slips through your fingers.
Right.
And that image of water is really fitting because
Okay.
the Tao is often described as being like water.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
Fluid, adaptable, always seeking its own level.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this philosophy encourages a different way of being in the world.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if everything's relative
Mm-hmm.
and the Tao is this boundless, ever-changing force,
Right.
how do we figure out what truly matters?
That's a good question.
Like, how do we find our place in all of this?
Well, that's something that the river god asks, too.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
the sea god's response is really interesting.
What's he say?
He says, don't get so caught up
Mm-hmm.
in what to pursue and what to avoid.
Okay.
Just align yourself with the Tao
Okay.
and let go of trying to control everything.
Wow. So it's like surrendering to something bigger than ourselves,
Yeah,
trusting in the natural flow of things.
that's right.
Okay, but what does that actually look like in practice?
Right.
Like aligning with the Tao, what does that mean?
Well, he gives this example of a ruler who governs impartially,
Okay.
just like the earth provides sustenance to all beings equally.
I see. So it's about letting go of our own ego-driven desires and embracing this more expansive way of being in the world.
Exactly.
So instead of constantly striving and grasping,
yeah.
the Tao is inviting us to kind of surrender to something larger than ourselves.
That's a good way to put it.
Oh, but how do we reconcile that with our own personal goals and aspirations?
That's a good question.
It seems like the Tao is all about letting go of control.
Yeah.
But don't we also need to put in effort to achieve our dreams?
You're right. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And the conversation actually goes on to explore that tension.
Okay.
The sea god talks about the dangers of getting too caught up in rigid value judgments.
Okay.
And he gives these examples of like the humility of these legendary sage kings compared to the destructive ambition of tyrants.
Right. So even like the most celebrated figures are still subject to the same flow of change as everything else.
That's right. Nobody's exempt.
It reminds me of that part where the text compares like a sturdy wall,
Oh, yeah.
great for protecting a fortress,
Yeah.
to like a tiny crack,
Yeah.
perfect for a small creature to hide in.
It's like saying everything has its own unique value and purpose, even if we don't always see it right away.
So it's really challenging us to question our assumptions about
Totally.
what's good or bad, useful or useless.
It's not that those judgments are meaningless,
Right.
but that they can really trap us in a limited way of seeing the world.
Right. It's like we're all wearing these filters that color how we perceive things.
That's a great way to put it.
And if we can learn to see from a broader perspective, from like the perspective of the Tao, we might find that a lot of our anxieties and struggles come from resisting that natural flow of existence.
That's right. It's like trying to swim upstream against a powerful current.
You know, it's exhausting.
Exhausting.
And probably futile.
And you're not going to get very far.
Right, right.
But if you can learn to ride the current, to trust in the wisdom of the Tao,
Okay.
then you can move through life with so much more ease and grace.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one, right?
So it's not about becoming passive or resigning ourselves to fate,
No, not at all.
but rather cultivating a kind of wisdom that allows us to act skillfully and navigate challenges effectively.
That's it. It's about skillful action.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that actually leads to another amazing part of the chapter,
Okay.
where the sea god really emphasizes this idea of skillful action.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He says that understanding the Tao isn't about like amassing knowledge or mastering some secret technique.
Right.
It's about aligning ourselves with the natural flow of existence. And when we do that, we can tap into this sense of freedom and ease that transcends our limited human perspective.
So it's less about what we know and more about how we live.
Yeah,
It's about embodying the principles of the Tao
that's right.
in our everyday actions and choices.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really powerful.
It is, yeah.
And it brings us to this wonderful little story about a centipede, a snake, and the wind.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
Okay, let's hear it.
So there's this centipede just strutting around on all its legs, feeling pretty proud of itself.
Oh, yeah, I could see it.
Right, and it bumps into this snake,
Mhm.
and the snake's all like, whoa! How do you move around with all those legs? I could just slither along, no problem.
Haha, yeah, like it seems so effortless for the snook.
Exactly. And then the wind comes along like whoosh.
Okay.
And they're both amazed by the wind.
Right, because it doesn't even have a body. It just moves freely.
Exactly. But then the wind's like, hold on. Even though I seem so powerful, I can be stopped by the smallest obstacle.
Oh, I see.
It's like this beautiful little lesson in humility, right?
Right, it's like we all have our strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm.
And comparing ourselves to others is kind of pointless.
It is, yeah. We all have our own unique way of moving through the world.
And that's what makes life so interesting, right?
Exactly. It's like that Daoist idea of embracing our true nature, not trying to be something we're not.
I love that. So we've been talking a lot about perspective and how it shapes our understanding of value.
Right.
But there's also this idea of letting go of judgments, right?
That's a big one.
Like the sea god challenges the river god and us to question those assumptions about good and bad, useful and useless.
Because a lot of times those judgments are just based on our limited experience. What might seem useless to one person could be essential to another.
Right. It all depends on your point of view.
And your needs, right?
Exactly. So Zhuangzi's not saying that we should just throw out all values.
No.
But that we should be aware of how those judgments can kind of trap us.
Yeah, and they can limit our understanding of the world.
Okay, so it's about developing a more nuanced perspective.
Seeing the bigger picture.
Now, recognizing that there's more to things than meets the eye.
That's it.
And this all ties back to the Tao, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. The Tao is all about embracing the natural flow of things, accepting both the light and the shadow.
Okay.
Seeing the good and the bad as part of a larger whole.
And that acceptance doesn't mean becoming passive or complacent, right?
No, not at all. It's about recognizing that even challenges and difficulties have their place.
Okay.
They can be opportunities for growth, for learning, for developing resilience.
So it's like we can't always control what happens to us.
Right.
But we can control how we respond.
Exactly. And the Zhuangzi offers some really helpful advice on how to navigate those rough waters.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do we approach those difficult moments?
Well, the sea god uses this really beautiful metaphor.
Okay.
He says, true virtue is like water. It can't be burned by fire, drowned by water, or harmed by heat or cold.
Whoa, that's powerful.
It is, yeah. He's not saying we should become invincible to pain or loss,
right,
but that we can learn to approach challenges with a sense of resilience and acceptance.
Instead of resistance and fear.
Exactly. It's about learning to ride the waves of emotion without being swept away by them.
So it's about cultivating this inner strength and equanimity that allows us to weather the storms of life with grace and wisdom.
Yeah, and it comes back to that idea of aligning with the Tao. If we can remember that everything's in constant flux, that even the most difficult experiences are impermanent,
right,
then we might find we have more inner resources to cope.
That's really reassuring.
It is, yeah. It's like remembering that even the darkest night gives way to dawn.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've been talking about the importance of inner strength and resilience, and there's that great story in the chapter about Confucius.
Oh, yeah, the one where he's besieged by enemies.
Yeah, but he's totally calm and composed the whole time.
Right, and his disciple Zilu is freaking out.
Totally. He's all stressed and anxious.
Yeah, but Confucius is just chilling, playing music.
I love that.
It's such a great example of how inner peace can help us navigate even the toughest situations. It's that Daoist idea that true strength comes from within.
Not from external power or force.
Exactly. It's about finding that stillness within.
Right, that center of peace that can't be shaken by external circumstances.
But how do we actually cultivate that kind of inner strength?
That's the million-dollar question. Does the Zhuangzi give us any clues?
It does, yeah. Look at how Confucius handles the situation.
Okay.
He doesn't try to fight his way out or resist what's happening. He accepts the situation and focuses on what he can control, his own inner state.
So it's about finding that balance between accepting what is and taking responsible action.
It is, yeah. We can't always control what happens to us.
Right.
But we can control how we respond.
And the Zhuangzi is full of stories about people who embody this kind of wisdom.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, remember the story of Zhuangzi himself?
Oh, yeah, when he was offered that high-ranking government job.
But he turned it down.
He'd rather be a free turtle.
That's right. Dragging its tail in the mud.
Than a revered turtle enshrined in a golden box.
Exactly. That story says so much about Daoist values.
Yeah, like choosing inner peace and freedom over external validation and status.
It's about living in alignment with your true nature.
Okay, I'm really starting to see how all these different stories and teachings in the Zhuangzi are connected.
They are, yeah. They all point back to this idea of aligning ourselves with the Tao.
Right.
Embracing our true nature and finding that inner peace that helps us navigate life's challenges.
It's a beautiful philosophy.
It is, yeah. And there's one more passage that really speaks to this.
Okay.
Remember that line where it says, heaven is within, humanity is without, virtue resides in heaven?
Oh, yeah, that line really stuck with me.
It's powerful, right?
It is, but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
Well, it's one of those lines you can ponder for a lifetime.
Uh-huh.
But basically it's saying that our true nature, our virtue, is already within us. It's not something we have to earn or achieve. It's something we need to uncover and cultivate.
So by aligning with the Tao, we can tap into that inner source of wisdom and virtue.
That's it. It's already there within us.
Okay, that's beautiful.
It is, yeah. It's like saying we already have everything we need for a fulfilling life.
We just have to remember it.
And learn how to access it.
Right, right. So we've talked about the importance of perspective, letting go of judgments, finding inner peace. But the sea god also talks about the limits of language and thought, right?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts.
What does he say about that?
He basically says that the most profound truths are beyond words and concepts.
Oh, I remember that line.
It can be frustrating, right?
It is. It's like I can understand these ideas intellectually, but actually embodying them in my life feels like a whole other challenge.
And that's where the practice comes in.
Right. It's not just about reading and understanding.
Well, it's about living it.
It's about embodying these teachings.
Exactly. That's what makes the Zhuangzi so timeless.
Yeah, it's not a set of rules.
No.
It's a way of life.
It's a journey.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have, yeah.
We've explored the Tao, perspective, true nature, inner peace. But I want to go back to that image of the river god in the North Sea.
Right.
What's the biggest takeaway from that encounter for you?
I think it's a reminder that our perspective is always limited, and there's always more to learn and experience.
Okay.
And embracing that humility and openness,
Yeah.
that's key for a truly fulfilling life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like an invitation to step outside our comfort zones, to challenge our assumptions, to embrace those boundless possibilities.
And to keep learning and growing.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Zhuangzi.
It's been a good one.
It has. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Daoist philosophy.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, the exploration doesn't end here.
The Zhuangzi is a text you can revisit again and again.
It's full of wisdom and insights.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep flowing with the Tao.
Beautifully said. Until next time, happy diving. Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does.
Like, what are those limitations that we've kind of put on ourselves? You know, those wells that we're trapped in.
Yeah, and the good news is,
yeah,
once you become aware of them,
right,
you can choose to step out.
We have the power.
We do.
To choose differently.
Yeah, to break free.
It's like we've been given this map to navigate life with more, wisdom and grace and even joy.
It's a good map.
It is a good map, and that map is the Zhuangzi.
That's right.
And it's not a one-time journey.
No, it's an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing exploration.
It is.
So as you go about your day-to-day, we invite you to keep this question in mind.
Yeah.
What small step can you take
to
step outside your comfort zone and embrace, that boundless nature of the Tao?
I love that.
Like, it could be something simple like trying a new activity, having a conversation with someone you disagree with, just taking a moment to appreciate the beauty around you.
Those are all good ones.
Because even those small steps
Yeah.
can create big changes.
That's right. Remember, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Zhuangzi.
It's been fun.
It has been. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Daoist philosophy. We hope you found it enriching.
I hope so.
And maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Yeah, me too.
And remember, the exploration doesn't end here.
No, keep going.
The Zhuangzi is a text you can revisit again and again.
Absolutely.
And always find something new.
There's always more to uncover.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep flowing with the Tao.
Yeah, that's it.
Until next time, happy diving.
Oh.